City News is brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.
Kia ora Rotorua, ahead in tonight's bulletin. Friday's Anzac Day service has been moved to a larger venue. Rotorua is among the best in the country for consent processing and charges, and community efforts contribute towards good news for Mokoia Island. This year's annual Anzac Day Civic Memorial Service will be moved to the new location of the Energy Event Centre. The service is being moved this year from the Convention Centre to the larger venue to accommodate growing community interest in Anzac Day and as a lead-in to next year's highly significant 100th anniversary. The civic service commemorating the 99th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings by New Zealand and Australian combined military forces will be held in the Energy Event Centre Unison's Arena on Anzac Day at 9:30. Mayor Steve Chadwick will host this year's service and says that numbers have been increasing over the years as more and more people choose to acknowledge the heroic efforts of our New Zealand and Australian forces.
This year, running for the next 1914 to 1918, so it's 100 years. This year we realised that we've got to move it from the Convention Centre to the Event Centre.
Anzac Day events start with the traditional dawn parade at Ohinimutu at 5:45 a.m. At 8:50 a.m, service personnel, school parties, cadet corps, local community groups and 300 St John youth officers will assemble at the intersection of Whakaui and Fenton Streets near the Village Green. At 9 a.m, the parade will march via Government Gardens, arriving at the Energy Event Centre at 9:20 in time for the Civic Memorial Service at 9:30 a.m. Memorial Drive by the lake will be closed from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. People driving to the Energy Event Centre are encouraged to avoid Prince's Gate entrance to the Government Gardens and instead enter past Polynesian Spa and take the road behind the Museum and Energy Event Centre or arrive before 9 a.m. Rotorua District Council is processing 100% of resource consents within statutory timeframes and charging applicants significantly less than the national average. These are the key findings of a recently released Ministry for Environment two-yearly survey of local authorities for the 2012 to 13 year. RDC Sustainable Economic Growth Strategy Lead, Councillor Mike McVicker, says the survey results confirm that Rotorua's resource consent processing stacked up well against other councils around the country. He says in terms of both meeting timeframes and low charges for processing applications, Rotorua is ahead of the game. The median Rotorua District Council charge for a non-notified consent in Rotorua was $591, whereas the national average median of $1,308 was $771 more than in Rotorua. Volunteers from across the Bay of Plenty are being thanked for their contribution towards the Mokoia Island pest incursion response. A dead rat was found on the island during a routine biosecurity check in March, prompting DOC to launch an incursion response with support from the Mokoia Island Board of Trustees. Island trustees, together with the Department of Conservation and volunteers, were able to determine that this was a lone rat that probably swam from the mainland. Partnerships Ranger Caroline Abbott says the trapping lines on the island have been strategically placed to catch rodent pests as soon as they get on the island, and that the traps have worked exactly as planned. The incursion response is now complete, with monthly biosecurity checks to continue, which will be led by DOC with the support of the Mokoia Island Board of Trustees. In sport tonight, Bay of Plenty Rugby have put a call out to singers who are interested in singing the national anthem at the upcoming International Women's Series. The International Women's Series kicks off in June, but singers interested in playing need to have their applications in by Monday, April the 28th. The Bay of Plenty Rugby Union requires 2 singers in each sub-region who will be either required to sing the New Zealand, Māori and English anthem and the Australian and Canadian anthems depending on teams playing in that particular game. For more information on applying to be one of the singers, contact the Bay of Plenty Rugby Union office. The local game of the International Series will be the Black Ferns taking on Australia in Rotorua on Sunday, June the 1st. To your weather update now. Tonight looks fine with an overnight low of 5. Tomorrow, Thursday, cloud increasing with a few showers spreading from the west during the afternoon. Westerlies a high of 17 and a low of 12. And the outlook for Friday, cloudy with a few showers, westerlies a high of 18 and a low of 12. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua, westerly 10 knots tending northwest to 15 knots in the afternoon with waves less than half a metre, and there'll be fair visibility and a few afternoon showers. Remember, for program listings and other info or to catch up on city news, visit our website tvrotorua.co.nz. Still to come tonight in City News, we're
Well, the road safety and drive sober message is probably one of the most important messages we can teach our young people. And for the last couple of days down here at the Rotorua Convention Centre, there has been the annual Road Safety Youth Expo. Now, as you can see, there's lots of youth, lots of kids coming through, so we're going to catch up with a few of them and a few of the exhibitors. Dave Jake from St John, good to have you with us with City News today. What are you guys doing here? Because I see you've got a tent set up with some half bodies.
We have, Ellen. What we're doing is we're sending the students through and we're teaching them a life-saving skill at CPR. Basically, it is one of the interventions that a first aider can do that's going to keep someone alive long enough for us to come and help. If someone has a heart attack, for example, they do CPR, that keeps the blood circulating around the body, keeps the brain and the heart perfused. That's enough for us to arrive there and we can give them a shock with our defibrillator that will stop the heart momentarily, and hopefully the pacemaker, the natural pacemaker of the heart, will kick in.
So no mouth-to-mouth anymore?
We don't. Mouth-to-mouth is important, but a lot of people think that that's the yuck factor, and the International Resuscitation Council has said we'll do it as a personal choice for people doing CPR. It's those compressions, it's keeping that blood pumping around the body that's important. And when you push down, you're creating a positive pressure. When you release, doing the compressions, you're actually a dead air space. Air is actually being sucked into the lungs anyway. Not a lot, but it's enough to keep that internal respiration viable enough to keep some oxygen in the body.
When the kids have come through and had a chat to you guys, obviously because you're on the coldface, you see accidents firsthand. What's the sort of questions they've been asking you when you approach or when you come to an accident?
Well, one of the main questions they ask, and a very good question, is what do we do when we come across a crash? Okay, first thing you do is keep yourself safe. We don't want you going into danger. Okay, there's nothing worse than a rescue. You're going into a crash, so I'm becoming someone that needs to be rescued later on. So ascertain how many people are there, get on the phone, dial 111. If there's multiple people in the car, that's great. Grab somebody to go about 100, 200 metres down the road, wave down traffic, warn them there's a crash up ahead. Again, someone to go forward 100, 200 metres, get a bystander to do that, just to wave down traffic and keep them safe, because you've heard of the story where you have a crash and there's multiple cars come racing in and they crash as well. Happens in big congested freeways like in the States. Go forward, ascertain if people are okay, if they're still talking to you, they're still breathing, that's not a problem. It's the ones that aren't saying anything, they're usually a problem, okay? Help them if you can, open the airway if it's safe.
And the kids have been pretty responsive today?
Absolutely. They've been absolutely brilliant. It's great that they're actually thinking about it. A little bit of a dose of reality. We're not there to frighten them or shock them, but a little bit of a dose of reality sort of wakes them up. It's better to find out now what goes on than to actually go out there, make the wrong choices and find out for themselves. Because basically, if you see us coming at the end of a crash, okay, you're having a bad day, it's going to get worse for a wee while until we can get you to the hospital and get you better.
Now, I know you guys do an awesome job in our community at St John's. Just recently you've got some extra staff, so that's got to help you guys out.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant, yeah. We're really looking forward to that. Yeah.
Cool. Cheers, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, good to have you with us again today. Now, with obviously all these kids coming through here, have you had a chance to talk to them one-on-one, or have they just been flying through looking at the different displays?
Well, as they come through the display the fire service are putting on, I catch them sometimes before they hop in, but I try and get them when they come out to see if they have got an impression of what we're trying to show them, which is when does fun turn into danger. When they hop out, most of them talk about the death that they see of a young child who just happens to be in his own backyard and a car comes crashing through the fence and is killed. They find that quite disturbing.
It's quite disturbing listening to it, Stuart.
It is. It's not a good sight, but it's reality. It happens. there's no alcohol involved in this. It's just about the teenagers making choices as they're driving a vehicle, putting their seatbelt on, not distracting the driver, and the driver not being distracted by the passengers, and that's what happens in this situation. And then we show them the reality, the fire service cutting the cars open, real live scenes. Unfortunately, they also see a burnt out vehicle with someone inside. So it is graphic, and it's meant to be hard hitting.
So it's a bit of the shock factor.
A shock factor, and the children who are going through are really taking it on board.
What do the kids say when they walk past that sign behind us and see it says that there's been 26 young people killed on our roads the year to date? What do they say to that?
Yes, it's a very interesting stat, and what they're saying is it's far too high. When they go back into the theatre after they've been through here, we actually show them a clip of their own peers from their colleges talking about the number of people dying on the roads, and they come back to talk about family, where how many would they be prepared to lose in their own family, and the answer's 0, of course, or none, some of them say. So when they see it's 26, that's shocking. But they don't know that that's actually really an improvement. We'd love it to be 0 or none, but it's down on the same time last year by about 12 people.
Now, the fire service, they're there out in the cold face. You know, you see these accidents. What's your message or your hopes for the young people coming through today?
Our message is really change your attitude and make the right choice.
Pretty simple, isn't it?
It is.
Good stuff. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, Anzac is a very special time for New Zealand and Australia, and that relationship, and remembering all of the sacrifices that were made. And there will be a very special remembrance happening in Rotorua. I'm joined now by Steve Chadwick, our Mayor, luckily in her office once again, and it is a special time, isn't it?
It is a time that's becoming bigger and bigger for the community. When we grew up, there was no heart for remembering about the war, but now, with another generation and a lot of our soldiers who gave service, prepared to tell their stories, young people are engaging more and more with Anzac Day ceremonies around the country.
And there are going to be quite a number of cadets here, aren't there?
There are, and St John's has got a very big conference, and so we've invited them to join us, and because we know it's going to be a very big year this year, running for the next 1914 to 1918, so it's 100 years, this year we realised that we've got to move it from the convention centre to the events centre. It's a bit further for the soldiers to walk. That's my only concern, but we'll all be in the one auditorium together, and that's a nice feeling that we'll share that same space.
Some of the soldiers, can you tell me the story of some of the soldiers?
Well, it was interesting. A nephew of mine who's at Boys High, Jack Portucker, won the New Zealand speech competition and has gone off to Gallipoli. And he gave a story. His speech that inspired him for the speech competition was about one of our family members who was the first Māori fighter pilot in the Great War and was part of the Great Escape. And I said to Jack, we hear of stories of valour, honour, victory, bravery. Why don't you tell a story that's nearest to your heart and your family's heart, and talk about someone from our family that went away and engaged in the war? And he did, and I think it showed for young people that every family has got someone who was a serviceman in either of the wars, and it's those stories that now need to be being told. So Jack talked about Johnny Pohi, the fighter pilot, and his speech was inspirational. He gave it at Boys High last week for their Anzac Day memorial service. But if each child in Rotorua sat down and talked to their grandparents about what did you do in the war, then the stories would come out. And they may not have an immediate story, but there would be one in the past. So I think there's a new era of commemorating Anzac, and I'm going to be announcing on Anzac Day that we're going to have a field of remembrance for those soldiers who have fallen and who didn't return. And it's where you put little white crosses in a space for every life lost during the engagement of the Great War. And we'll find a space. So with the community, with RSA, and we've got a committee, we'll find a space that's the right space for us to put out our crosses that mean visitors to Rotorua who go and look at our beautiful Maori Battalion exhibition at Te Wharetanga could also then go on and see the number of lives lost during our Great War and other wars. And that would take one field, not a big field, but each person whose life was lost, who may not have come back to be buried here, will have a little white cross with a name on it. And that's for visitors to then wander, reflect, consider what war meant for them, but also to value the freedom that we've got today because of their engagement. So that's an announcement I'm very excited to be making.
So will that be a permanent feature? Or
We'll put the white crosses out next year. We're not sure where we're going to put them. And if they need to be in a high visibility place, we've got to make sure it's safe, because we don't want to have any desecration of that memorial. They do it in Auckland, and an old boy of Rotorua Boys High is on the Fields of Remembrance Trust in Auckland. He's been to see me to say, why can't we have one here in Rotorua? So we'll start working out whether it's permanent or something that we put out every Anzac Day.
And so all the more reason to have our young people en masse at the Anzac service, which is going to be held at the event centre. So please come along, bring your young people, bring your old people, bring the golden oldies as well, and let's all remember that time and the sacrifices made together. Kia ora.
Well, there's a bit of a party going on here in Specsavers behind me. It's their birthday and they've got some special celebrations going on. So we'll head inside and talk with the owner, Celeste Racebeck, and also catch up with Hospice fundraising manager Jan Morgan and find out what's going on. Jan Morgan from Hospice, nice to see you again. Now, when a local business decides to support Hospice, it makes your job obviously a little bit easier, but must put a smile on your face knowing that people are there to help you guys.
Oh, I am so grateful, Alan. It's just tremendous. I'm really, really, really pleased and grateful.
So what are they doing this for Hospice this year?
Well, for every eye examination that happens today, they're going to donate $5 to Hospice.
Now, Jan, recently we caught up with you to talk about the street appeal. How did that go, or is it still going?
It's actually still going, so it was a great day and we were really pleased with the weather. But over Easter, because there's lots and lots of tourists and it's the school holidays, places like Capers, Third Place Cafe, Lime Cafe are having a donation bucket. So I'm hoping that lots of tourists will go, yes, I can put our coins or notes into those buckets.
Yeah, good idea. Now, recently also we caught up with Mike Tennant, who's run 52 half marathons in 52 weeks, all in the aid of supporting hospice, and he's raised nearly 40 grand, which will go around the different hospices around New Zealand. But again, that's just an amazing feat by a local man.
Oh, he's just a legend. He's a living legend.
That's what I said to him.
Yeah. And he's a great ambassador for hospices all over New Zealand. And so I'm really looking forward to catching up with him. The next day, it's his 55th birthday, and he's going to present Hospice with a cheque, Hospice Rotorua with our cheque.
And you don't know how much that is just yet?
No, I'm looking forward to that day, believe me.
Now, one of the things I want to ask you, Jan, is that we've caught up with you a number of times and we're talking about fundraising and the amazing things that hospice does in the community. But what is it for you that keeps you going to keep wanting to raise money to help hospice?
I guess it's the feedback that we get from the patients' families, so it's the families and patients, of course, that tell us that they couldn't do without hospice, and at a very, very difficult time in their lives, at a very stressful time in their lives, hospice is there providing the services, equipment and compassionate care.
And one thing that our viewers may not know, but when we go down there, everybody's actually really cheery, and it's not like, how do you say it? It's not like all gloomy because people are going to pass on, but everybody's really cheery.
Yes, it's about making the most of every precious moment and day. So life is very precious, and it's about living and living to the max, shall we say.
Well, once these guys here at Specsavers have finished their fundraiser, we'll catch up with you guys again and to talk about Mike and to talk about your street appeals. So we'll see you then. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Alan.
Hi, Celeste. Good to have you on City News today. Now, why are we here? Obviously, it's a birthday, but how old is Specsavers?
Specsavers Rotorua is 5 years old today, and we're celebrating that by donating $5 from every eye exam that we do today to Rotorua Hospice. So we've been in the community a long time, but as Specsavers, 5 years, and so we thought we'd take that opportunity to give back to the Rotorua community because they've given us so much.
So why did you choose hospice?
Hospice was a good choice. We asked the staff. We were allowed to choose a local charity that we were able to donate to. So Specsavers nationally have a national campaign for the Fred Hollows Foundation, but locally each store was able to choose its own charity, and we got down to a short list, and then the staff decided that hospice would be a good one for us to go with locally.
Yeah, the great thing about hospice is that they do get a lot of community support, so it's always awesome for a local business to jump on board as well. So do you think it was an easy decision with your staff to come up with the hospice?
Yes, well, fortunately or unfortunately, most of us have had some contact with hospice and know the wonderful work that they do for the community. It's one of those wonderful charities that you hope you don't need to deal with them, but when you do, they're fantastic and they're there for you. So they don't get government funding; they need lots of supplemented funding, and this is something that we're able to do. So with every pair of glasses that we sell, a portion of that money goes towards. Our customers can place these tokens in our community charity box, and so a portion of money as owners gets donated to the hospice in that respect, but this was a big event that we could do to boost our contribution to hospice.
Yep, so you're still going to be here in 5 years?
Definitely. There have been a few changes staff-wise and ownership-wise with Scott moving to the Mount, but Mark and I are still here, and Mark's been in Rotorua. He doesn't want me to say how long, but I'm happy to say that I've been here 20 years, and so we'll still be here carrying on.
Good stuff. Well, happy birthday to Specsavers and to you guys here and your team. So I'm glad that you guys are helping hospice, because I know Jan's still over there watching us, and she's really enthused and obviously excited and grateful that businesses like yourself here at Specsavers can help me out. So appreciate your help.
We're happy to do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
What a great contribution Specsavers is making to help our local hospice. If you have any news that you'd like to share with us, give the station a call on 07 3488 984, or you can email news@tv.rotorua.co.nz. Thanks for joining us tonight. From all the team here at City News, for Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News was brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.